Okay, yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, just a quick review. We talked about three different domains. What were those domains? First of all, we dealt with the domain archaea. Second of all, we dealt with the domain bacteria. Then thirdly, we dealt with the domain eukarya. Now, with those domains come 6 different kingdoms. We talked about 2 of the different kingdoms yesterday. The kingdom Archaea, which has the same name as the domain Archaea. And second, we talked about the kingdom Eubacteria, which falls into the domain bacteria. Now, that's 2 out of the 6 kingdoms. The other 4 kingdoms all come under the domain eukarya. So we're going to talk about those 4 other kingdoms today. Now, just to jog your memory a little bit, eukarya, okay, the domain eukarya has eukaryotic cells, meaning that we have a true nucleus and that we have membrane-bound organelles. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the very first kingdom we're going to discuss in eukarya, and that is going to be the Protista kingdom, the protist. So as I get over here, I click her up. Here is the kingdom. The first one we're going to talk about is protist, the kingdom Protista. Okay, there's a picture of a little protist right there. Okay. We're going to talk about a second kingdom, fungi. Okay, ever heard of fungus? Oh, look, here's a paramecium. That was the protist, the paramecium. Here is the fungus. Oh, a mushroom. Good. I like mushrooms. I get mushrooms all the time on my pizza. My wife hates them, so I don't get to get mushrooms very often. Okay, plants, plantae is the third kingdom that we're going to talk about in eukarya. Ever heard of a plant? Boy, I think so. There, that guy. You can see one of those out the window right now if we look. Starting to get leaves. Here's the time of year where we're starting to get a little bit more photosynthesis occurring. Okay? We're starting to get some green back in our environment outside. I just had to mow my grass for the first time of the season last week. Actually, I didn't mow. My knees hurt, so I can't mow my grass. But I had my nephew mow my grass for me and paid him a small fee to mow my grass, but he did a fabulous job. But nonetheless, we're getting some green back into the environment outside, so we have some more photosynthesis occurring. And the final kingdom that we're going to talk about is Animalia, animals. Don't know much about animals. Well, just kidding. JK, JK. Here's a frog, okay? Here's a frog. I put that on there. My sister loves frogs. It's her favorite animal, so I just put a little frog on there for my sister, okay? So let's go and let's break down these kingdoms. Protista, okay? Protista has what we call protists in them. Now, what are these protists? This is kind of the catch-all, the odds and ends kingdom. If we can't group it in any other kingdom, let's just throw it into the protists, okay? So if we can't put it anywhere else, we put it into this kingdom. So, it includes any organism that is not an animal, that is not a plant, that is not a fungus, okay? So any one of these organisms would fall into the protists. They are eukaryotic. We know that because they are in the domain eukarya. So that means that they have eukaryotic cells, okay? Most are unicellular, But we can have some protists that are multicellular. So most of them are unicellular, but they can also be multicellular. Some are autotrophs, others are heterotrophs. So some of them can make their own food, some of them cannot. Some of these protists have cell walls. So some must not have cell walls. Okay? So I said, here are just some different cartoons. These actually look like, okay, they look like they're little ornaments that you would hang on your Christmas tree. But these are just different pictures of some protists. Okay, and these are actually cartoon pictures of the protists that I have found. Okay, here are some regular protists that I see. Okay, let's talk about this, the euglena. Okay, see that little bit of green? I'll bet you he does something with some photosynthesis. So I'll bet you that euglena can make its own food. Here's a paramecium. Okay, paramecium. Look, here's a vacuole right here. And we can see it has different cilia there for locomotion. Okay, it uses that to kind of like row through the water, to swim through. Here is an amoeba. An amoeba is a protist. It's just kind of some big blob. And finally, a volvox right here. Once again, the green color here, the volvox. What do you think? Photosynthesis, maybe? I dare to say yes. I dare to say yes. Okay? So here are 4 different examples of some protists. The next kingdom we're going to talk about is fungi. And when we discuss this fungi, the picture that you have in your notes are of that mushroom, okay? So fungi are, once again, eukaryotic. They're in the eukarya domain. They got to be eukaryotic. Most are unicellular. One example of fungi that is not unicellular is yeast. Okay? Or excuse me, most are multicellular. An example of one that is not multicellular is yeast. I think I said that backwards. Okay? So once again, most fungi are multicellular. Okay? Yeast is a unicellular fungi. Okay? Fungi, just a little bit of a background information on this, fungi is plural. That I makes it plural. If it were just a singular, we would call it fungus. Okay? So fungus, the US, means it's singular. Fungi means that it is plural, more than one. And that comes from Latin. Way back in the day, I took Latin here at Salina High School with Mr. J.T. Roth, and he no longer teaches here, and Latin is no longer offered. But the US and the I are definitely Latin endings. Heterotrophic, okay? They're heterotrophic, so they cannot make their own food, okay? They have to rely on others to get their food, okay? They include yeast. I already told you that. Yeast is a unicellular fungi. Molds, mildews, and mushrooms. Okay? I've heard of this mold and mildew, in commercials with cleaning products, something like in your bathroom. Use our product, spray it on to get rid of the mold and mildew that is in your bathroom. Okay? Mold, not really desirable. Mushrooms, yet another one, probably the most common fungi that we deal with, the mushrooms. They have cell walls. They have cell walls that are made of a material that we call chitin. Okay, right here. Chitin is the material that make up the cell wall of fungi. Okay? So we talked about peptidoglycan, okay? Peptidoglycan, those were the eubacteria, okay? Kingdom eubacteria has peptidoglycan cell walls. The kingdom fungi has chitin cell walls. So their cell walls are made of chitin, okay? Here we go with some different types. Okay, we can see the mushroom there. And finally, well, not finally, we go into our next, the third of the eukarya domain, the third kingdom of the eukarya domain is what we call plantae. All right, plantae. We discussed this a little bit earlier today. We said plantae are the ones that are the plants. So plantae are multicellular. Okay, plants are multicellular organisms. They have more than one cell. Plants are eukaryotic. They have a true nucleus. They have membrane-bound organelles. Plants are autotrophic. They produce their own food by a process called ding, 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 photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. Most plants live on land, but that doesn't mean all of them. We have plants that grow underwater. The only problem with these plants growing underwater is that that water can restrict the amount of light that they can get. So a lot of the times, if you're seeing plants that are growing underwater, they're not growing in very deep water. Okay, they're not growing in very deep water so that the sun can shine through and they can still photosynthesize. Because whether you're a land animal, or excuse me, whether you're a land plant or whether you're a water plant, it doesn't matter. You still need to have photosynthesis to produce the glucose, and to do so, you need light. Plants have a cell wall of cellulose, peptidoglycan, chitin, cellulose. Each one of these kingdoms have cell walls made of different substances. So if we test something and look and say, okay, here's a cell wall. Wait, what's the cell wall made of? Oh, it's made of cellulose. We're going to put that in the kingdom Plantae. We're going to call that a plant. Here we go, a whole bunch of different plants, okay? Excuse me, a whole bunch of different plants. I like roses here. That looks to me like some kind of a berry, maybe a mulberry, a raspberry, I don't know. This right here looks to me like a fern. That looks like a ginkgo. These look to be some kind of cones, okay? Those look to be some kind of cones, so those are probably conifers of some type. Nonetheless, they are plants. So we have a wide array of different plants in the picture. The final kingdom we're going to talk about today is animals, Animalia. You and I are animals, so we would fall under the Animalia kingdom. So when you go back and stop and say, okay, what is the name where you had to do the name of human beings? Well, the domain Eukarya, okay? The kingdom is Animalia. So there's the first two of them, okay? Animals are multicellular and they are eukaryotic. They are also heterotrophic. Okay, so animals cannot make their own food within their bodies, okay? Animals can live in very diverse environments, okay? We have land animals. We have water animals, okay? Land animals, some of them live in the air, okay? Birds fly in the air, all right? We can talk about different biomes, different places. Do they like to live? Do these animals like to live in the North Pole? Are they polar bears? Do they like it really, really cold? Okay. Do they like to live near the equator? Okay. they're over by the equator is where some of the most diverse species live. Okay, so we have a bunch of different species living by the equator, a warmer environment. Okay, we're more of the environment living with the deciduous forests where we have trees that have leaves on them. Okay, now here's some pictures of different types of animals: worms, flatworms, rotifers, nematodes, mollusks, okay, annelids, arthropods, chordates, echinoderms, cnidarians, okay, sponges. So here's all different types and branches of different animals. Okay, here's the chordates, the little frog once again that we see. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Mr. Braun. In the last couple of days, we have learned about the 3 different kingdoms. Let's review those. Okay, archaea, bacteria, eukarya, the 3 domains. And of those 3 domains, we have 6 kingdoms that we classify things under. The kingdom archaea, the kingdom eubacteria, the kingdom protista, the kingdom fungi, the kingdom plantae, and finally, last but not least, the kingdom animalia. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Braun. Let's investigate.